Oh my gosh. Are you ready to have your mind blown today? My special guest is Marla Frees, the author of American Psychic. And let me tell you, I read the book and boy, are we gonna have a blast.
Now shut up, the show's starting.
Hey everybody, I hope you're ready. This is going to be one humdinger of a show. I'm telling you, this show, it's hard to explain what's going to happen in this show today with my fabulous guest, Marla Frees, because we met in such a wacky way in a parking lot in Studio City. I was eating hung lung lo mein noodles and she was walking by, but we're going to tell you the story in a minute. Are you ready to meet her? She's an incredible friend that I've known almost, maybe 5, 6, 7 years now. I'm not quite sure, but put your hands together and welcome the fabulous Marla Frees. Whoo! Hey, Marla.
Oh, Esther, I'm so thrilled to be here.
I am so thrilled you're here on the show. Oh my gosh, look at that. They're already coming in. Everybody's coming in. Now, Marla, you have to understand, sometimes as you look into the thing, you'll see people popping in. And we always say, hi, RJ Lalander and Angela and Kathy. Welcome to the show. Welcome.
I'd love to do that. I'm waiting for them.
Oh, they come in.
Okay, good.
Yay, Esther twice in one day. Oh, that's right. I redid a video, which is so funny. You and I were talking before the show. I put a video that I have a TV pilot that I did back in 6, 7 years ago, and it was called Politics is a Drag. That didn't get sold, but it's very funny. And I put it back up today because I wanted different people to see it. And boo, I forgot it was on. Hey, Marla, there it is. There's RJ saying hi.
Where are we here? I'm lost over here. Where's that chat?
It should be on the side there.
Here it is. Okay.
You found it?
Okay, Mylon. Okay, got who I got here. Let's see.
Okay. Oh, I can see. I see things, Marla, that you don't see because I have a command center here.
Oh, so right. You've got everything over there. Okay.
I have like you here on StreamYard, and then I've got a YouTube thing going right up here. And there's and we also have people tuning in from Facebook, Facebook profile, Facebook, the Paul Lynn Facebook page, the Esther Facebook page. I mean, just everything. So it's a total of close to about 20 to 30, 40,000 people.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, yeah. Who's there? Hi, Marla. Hi, Esther. Okay, let's see.
There you go.
Good. Yes, I've got them all here. Morning from New Zealand. I just want to say hi. New Zealand is one of my favorite places in the world to be. Just wanted to say that. I was there in 2017 with a consciousness expert in Auckland, and had the best time. Did groups, did big talks, and so I love my New Zealanders.
And Angela has become a regular. She was a friend of Sloane's, who we both know, Sloane Bella, and Sloane sent her over, so she's been sending people over. Let's see. Where are you at, Joe? Hold on. Let me see. Where is this at here? Hold on. There we go. I'm on the Paul Lynn Facebook. Thank you, Joe, so much. As you know, I play Paul Lynn. I play Michael when I'm not dressed as Esther. And I play Esther when I'm me. So thank you for tuning in. There you go. Hi, everybody. So, okay. Let me tell everybody about this wonderful woman you see on your screen in front of you right now. About, how many years ago was it? It was about.
I don't know.
I've been here 6. I was visiting, so it had to have been about 6 years ago. About 6 years ago, I was with 2 friends of mine, Jonathan and Colton. They're now married. 2 cute, adorable friends of mine. Jonathan has been a friend of mine for like 17 years, and we're sitting there having dinner, lunch at City Walk in Studio City. And I had my little Champers with me. My little dog. Everybody knows Champers, my dog. And Champers just minding his own business. And Sharon walks by. This woman walks by, blonde haired. She stops and she goes, she looks at my dog and she looks at me and she goes, "Excuse me." I go, "Yes." She goes, "Your dog wants me to tell you that you should not be giving him CBD oil." Now, my friends sitting at the other side of the table are going, "Uh-oh, nut jobs." He stuck on the table. And I'm going, Are you serious?" And you go, "Yes, hold on." And you said something. And he goes, "Yes." He goes, "Please stop. He wants you to really stop. He doesn't like it. Please don't do it." Well, let me tell you, a week before, I had ordered CBD to calm him down because Chihuahuas are like designed for C batteries, and someone shoved D's up their ass. They're really crazy. So I thought CBD oil would make him stop, but he wasn't eating his food. He didn't like it. He was just being a pain in the ass. So when you said that, I was blown away. And then you told me who you were and what you did. And I've from since then, I've kind of followed you and kept up with everything. And then we reconnected like the past couple of weeks. And I said, "Marla, come on the show."
Is that how you became the kosher psychic? You thought, "Oh, I think I like this new thing."
Yeah, I just thought, well, I thought being the kosher psych would be something funny, just
It is.
get people to ask me questions. I've done two, and it's been a little crazy because Mercury was retrograde. Are you into astrology at all?
I love astrology. Actually, when I'm in trouble, I will go to my people with planets and we will
Uh-huh.
talk. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
Well, what happened with Mercury was retrograde, and then I got monetized and whatever. But I started her, but I'm going to bring her back. I want her for more for TikTok because they're just 60 seconds. Hi, it's the kosher psychic, and she's got her turban and everything. It's just very funny stuff. But yeah,
I
I
think I'm sorry. I'm still laughing, remembering the jokes that you did.
that
So
was like that hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids was one, and pickles.
dill pickles.
Still pickles. Whatever. But this show is not about me, Marla. This show is about you and for people to discover who you are. And I'm so excited. And by the way, before we finish, before we get started, Barbara DeBella and Janet DeBella, if you're on, I know you said you're going to be here. So put a comment down so I know you're here.
Oh, my old friends. Love them.
Yeah, we have a history too. So let me tell you something. I read your book, American Psychic. I have a habit of not reading things or doing some of my major research until the day before or even the morning of the show. So last night around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I said, "Okay, I got to read this book because she's going to know if I had read it or not." So, and I didn't have the book. I had it on my laptop. I couldn't put it down. I fell asleep last night at 11 o'clock with the laptop on my stomach. And the battery was out this morning, so I had to go plug it in and bring it. And I finished reading it this morning. First, everybody must understand, you have had the most incredible childhood, a traumatic childhood, and overcome so many odds from your mother, from being sexually abused to, oh my God, when we get to Cuba, that's another story. But you ended up in Los Angeles as an actress, right? And then all of a sudden, you decided to follow what thems were trying to tell you. And so explain to everybody. There it is. Barb's here. All right. They're all here. Everybody's here. Everybody's here. We're going to get to you in a minute, Barbara. She wants to tell a story about you, but we're going to get to it. So that means you have to keep watching. And, you were how old when you first realized you had something special in your life? Let's go back to the very beginning, because most people want to know, how did you didn't wake up on your 30th birthday or your 21st birthday and go, "Oh, I'm a psychic, I can see shit." No, you explain to everybody, and it's also, please, I'm telling everybody, buy this book. It will change your life. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, you're so sweet. Thank you so much about the book. Well, I think it is interesting for all of us. We come to this awareness in our own way. But the first thing that I remember, it was when I was 8, and I went across the street to wait for my girlfriend, and the mother was in the kitchen, and she was breaking up bread for stuffing. It was around Thanksgiving, and she plopped the bowl in front of me, and she said, "Would you just break up some bread, and Paula will be here soon." And I looked at the bowl, and all of a sudden, I went blind to my present circumstances. I couldn't see the bowl anymore.
Mhm.
And I saw in my head the mother, the woman at the kitchen who was at the kitchen sink. I saw her boyfriend in a parking lot at a hospital with a blonde woman. He was talking to her and he was telling her that he didn't want to be with the woman in the kitchen anymore, that he
Oh my
wanted to be
gosh.
with this blonde woman, and that he didn't want to give the woman in the kitchen a gift for Christmas. And so I went, "Oh, by the way, you know your boyfriend's cheating on you with a girl in the hospital?" And the mother went, "How do you know that?" And that was like that was the actual first thing that had ever happened to me.
But an 8-year-old going, somebody's cheating. It was like, yeah, I guess you have this incredible gift to be able to talk to people from the other side, to connect with the deceased. Is
Yes.
is that more, as a psychic medium, is that, is that your specialty? Is that your area that you seem to connect with people more?
Well, I think that I'm sort of an overall person
I
who
understand.
the psychic work is, of course, interesting little pieces of information like that. Why that showed up, I don't know, but it was the first thing that had happened. But I'm great with structure and compromise. And
Mhm,
I think it's because, I have that word transformational in front of my name. It's because
mhm.
I spent 30 some years, Esther, in
Mhm.
therapy to heal the trauma. So I've spent time in life coaching and I've done all of that kind of work that I really believe is the essence of the work that I do for clients, which is basically when I work with someone, it's for their highest good. I'm
Mhm.
sure lots of your people say, we're not dog and pony shows, but the
Right.
point is, I'm able to go into the depth of perhaps a place that needs to be looked at. It's kind of like Jenga. Do you remember the game Jenga?
And you're
Where you
full
pull
Yep.
those, yeah,
Mhm.
like that. Something, spirit consciousness helps me see something and I just pull it out. And it's not as though it all breaks down, but it makes us more malleable about
Right.
looking at what needs to be looked at in order for the great stuff to come in. Like the first half of that book is a lot about the trauma and some of the
Mhm.
things that happened in order to make me as curious about this as I am. But the
Right.
second half of the book is about healing all of that. And that's how the insight started. That's when all of the psychic stuff just started really pouring in.
The healing and love and forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's love and forgiveness is what sews that whole book up at the end, and it just touched my heart so much. But, what you forgave your mother
Mm.
for and how she treated you growing up as a child. No child should have to go through what you went through as a little girl at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and you went to hell and back, and you survived.
Well, I think, there's a lot of the listeners that are here today that have similar stories,
Mhm.
unfortunately. But the gift that comes out of that is the awareness. We are all hypersensitive. We become hypersensitive. And that hypersensitivity opens the door for this kind of awareness.
Mhm.
I really believe it is the sensitivity of having to negotiate my mother, having to sort of, well, basically intuit what she was going to do. So that's where
Right.
this all started. You have to like feel your way through it. And it was in watching her watch television that made me think in my, sort of juvenile way, well, if I can get into that television set, then maybe she will love me and not hurt me. And
Right.
that's what I ended up doing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for everybody, like before she became this world-renowned transformational psychic. I got it right. Uh, Marla was on a lot of great TV shows. You wanna see? Here, take a look. This is take a look.
Excuse me, can I get something to drink?
I'm afraid not.
Now, what are you cutting out the drinks now?
Clark! The mayor just called a press conference to announce the new chief of police. Perry wants us down there right away. Taxi! Yes, Jerry, don't you have anything better to do than to pick a fight with a moron?
Just who are you calling moron?
Your husband, you painted husband. Is Deborah here?
She got hit in the head with a flute. Yeah.
Excuse me, are you Miles Silverberg?
Actually, I'm George Stephanopoulos.
Nice. A pig and a coward.
And this is my boyfriend, Drew. He's also with Winfred Lauder.
Drew, you must be new at the store. I haven't heard of you.
Actually, I worked there for 20 years.
Are you Lieutenant C. Sloan? FBI, Special Agent Ilona Odell. This is Agent Polk.
There are no shortcuts. Save it for your patients, Doctor. Because until the FDA tells me something different, I'm not going anywhere.
Getting smacked by Katie Seagal. That blew me away. I remember that episode. It was, I was dying. I was dying when I saw that.
You know, when you watch that, you can see when I go back and she puts me down on top of the car, you can see me smile just a little bit because it was just so much fun. It was so great.
I had that because I know a lot of people, you know, wanted to know, oh, she was on you. And once they see you, they recognize you, you know, from things. There you go. Yeah, and yes, by the way, RL, it is available on Amazon. So I answered it right there. Just
this is what it looks like.
Yes, and I also had, I was going to do this later. Where the hell did it go? Oh yeah, I had the book there. There it is.
Okay.
I had it so you can see it real big.
I was cleaning off my desk and it was there, so I thought, well, you know, if you needed it.
Please, of course. Because I was reading the laptop. During Mercury retrograde, you sent me the book that never arrived. And I'm like going, okay. But it's okay. It's fine. So anyway, so back about you and your mother. You know, you dealt with, we can talk about this, I guess. You dealt with a lot of abuse with your mother. Your mother, how to explain? She was almost jealous of you. But there was also a lot of there were a lot of things that she did that, like I said, you don't do to a child.
Right.
And you survived that. Even sexual abuse. You know, that scene in your book where you said, "Don't touch me" at that lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
When your father had passed away. Yeah. Am I right? Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. I went, yeah, girl, do that. And that was a release for you.
Well, yes.
Go in and explain to people what I was trying to talk about here.
Actually, it was after my father had died, but it was at a class reunion. I had gone back for my class reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was always inappropriate, but here I was, oh my gosh, how old was I at the time? I think it was 2001 when I was there for that reunion. And she basically, well, excuse me, I'm burping at the same time. I'm wondering how much to tell about this. But basically, her inappropriateness for most of my life was not having any boundaries. Mm-hmm. So she thought that she could touch parts of my body. And she actually did it in front of friends of mine when we were at a luncheon, when we were standing waiting to go in. And I hit her. Now, this is after many, many, many years. And, you know, she is deceased and we have another story about that. And I just want to let you know, I would never do any kind of elder abuse. It just breaks my heart. But the point was, I'd finally stopped her. She was touching me in an inappropriate way in front of my friends. And I basically struck her hand down. And this was right before we were seated at this restaurant. And it was the first time I could see, you know, when you talk about death and your life flashing before your eyes, I could see everything about what had happened my entire life since I was a little girl. And it was the first time that I could stand up for myself. I didn't need anybody else. I took care of myself. And it had quite a reverberation, but that was the last time I saw her before she passed.
Mm-hmm. And I once again, folks, it is not an infomercial for American Psychic, but if you read the book and read the history of their relationship, when you get to that part, it's in the final last 30 pages of the book, you will do like I did and went, whoa. And I think a lot of people can relate to what Marla has been through. Now, you know, going about the book and about what you do. one of the things that I was understanding was religion and the spiritual journey that people have. And as we all know, most all the wars in the world have been about what? Religion. Because why? Because everybody wants to worship the supreme being their way. As human beings, they write the Bible and this is what's supposed to be. The Quran is a certain way. The Torah is a certain way. And reading your book and the spiritual journey that you went to at a young age when you became a born again Christian, that happened to me too, which blew me away. And I was like, what? But
we do that for a reason.
Yeah. Well, at the time I hadn't come out of the closet. So I was in love with this girl whose father happened to be the vice president of the Christian Broadcasting Network in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And just say I pretended I was slain in the spirit. And the next thing I know, I'm working as the assistant to Pat Robertson. That's another story. That's another story. But back to you. The thing is that, I claim to call myself a spiritual person. I believe that there is a higher power. There's white light, there's dark light, there's positive, and karma is real. And you have this analogy. Instead of saying, people who are born again go through the words of Jesus Christ, they go through, oh God, what is Islam? I'm having a brain fart here. Allah. Thank you. I couldn't think of it. But you came up with a term called thems. Explain that to me. Explain that to them.
Sure, of course.
Which I think is, to me, it's absolutely brilliant. It's a brilliant analogy.
Well, it was an interesting experience because I was just going through, it was 2009. I was going through a divorce and all my friends were asking me, because I'd been working as a psychic and a medium since the mid 90s, right? 95 is when that whole started. And that's another thing. We got to talk about that because I didn't believe in talking to the dead. I was a huge skeptic. So we'll get to that in a minute. But
you were skipping on a couple of things if we go back.
but the point about that was it was one of those aspects where I thought, what is happening to me? All my friends are asking me, where's God? Where's Jesus? Where are your angels? Where are your ascended masters? And I was really tired and I went, oh, thems? Oh, they're here. They're here. They're here. Believe me, they're here. And then I heard, well, Marla, if you're going to call us thems, then you got to know what it stands for. The Heavenly Eternal Messaging System.
The heaven eternal. But I mean, you also call spirit the collective team.
Yes. Yes, a collective consciousness. I think it's really important. I've been working the science of this for the last 10 years, understanding that it is a lot more simple than we know. I was, when you play with your phone, when you play solitaire on your phone, you basically, I hadn't played it in a long time, but when you start looking at it and you don't know what to do, there's a little button that comes up that's like a hint. And that's like our spiritual awareness. It's like God kind of nudging us in a different way. And I'm going to go, oh, that's where I put the card. And I think it's a really interesting analogy that there's a system, this God consciousness, this most benevolent experience that gives us information when we get stuck. If we're looking for it, if we're curious for it. And then, of course, when we get really stuck, it reshuffles the cards. And when we get really stuck, game's over, we got to play it again. So I think it's much more simple than a lot of people like to make it. And
so you started getting these voices. And then we just spoke about this a few minutes ago where you didn't believe about talking to dead people and the deceased. I mean, explain to me, what was the first, because I will say this real quickly. Sometimes I want to find the right words to describe your incredible gift. And it's sometimes because you have these voices in your head and you blurt it out. It's sort of like Whoopi and Ghost.
Well, I use that as an analogy for a long time.
Right. But when did you, I had a note here and I can't remember, it was a commercial, the Captain Crunch commercial and the Blue Book. I'm trying to, there's so much in you. Was that part of speaking to people? Was that?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Oh, and I just see a note down here. Somebody's questioning about our conversation about Allah. Excuse me. there's just so many names for any kind of organized religion leader, and that's what she was referring to when she was talking about the book. Because I talk about that, I have lots of different experiences with various organized religions in the book. So just wanted to make a note about that, Nikki, so you understand that. So I was on set. It was a commercial for Captain Crunch, and once again, I'm sitting there with my pretend husband for the day, and we're chit-chatting, and it's fun. I loved doing commercials. They were so great. But all of a sudden, once again, I think it might have to do with bowls. Remember the bowl with the stuff in it? There's a bowl of cereal, and all of a sudden I go blind to my circumstances, and I am, boom, in a room. I'm in a baby's room, and it's blue, and it's very calm, and there's a mobile going over the crib, and I'm watching this, and I'm hearing, "Please tell him I watch him read the book, the blue book, every night to his son. It's Fred. It's Fred." And I heard the director, "Marla." I'm like, "Oh my God." And I better snap back. And he goes, "Okay?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm great. And then I'm like, "Oh my God, does this have to do with this husband of mine that I'm sitting here with?" So moments pass by, and Michael, my husband for the day, says, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Well, yeah, if we have a few minutes." And I check, and we did. I said, "Listen, do you happen to have a son?" And he said, "Yes, I do. I have a brand new baby." And I said, "Well, I've got a guy named Fred here who's telling me that you read the blue book to him every night." And Michael, who I'm still friends with, I get so emotional when I think about it, because if I go to that place, I can remember the feelings. I think that's why I do this work. I don't have a lot of family in it, so I didn't have a lot of loved ones to lose, but I can feel the love from these people in such a profound way. And so he goes, "Yes, I do read the blue book. I think it's called Rainbow Fish, every night to my son." So we spent the entire time talking to his father during on that set.
So was that one of the big? So why did you not believe that you could talk to the dead? What was the turning point? Was that you all of a sudden you went? Go ahead. I got take some swig. What was the turning point that made you realize that part of your transformational psychic abilities allowed you to speak to the other side? I guess that's
Esther, I was being stalked. And the guy that ended up stalking me was a barista boy that I had
Oh my God, the Starbucks dude.
Well, it wasn't Starbucks. It was a local coffee shop.
At the coffee shop, right.
But he came into my life. Listen, I had just had my wisdom teeth cut out of my head. I was on Percocet. One of my dearest friends had just been killed crossing Wilshire Boulevard. I was in kind of a mess when this guy, this barista boy, came into my life. He was cute. He looked like Leonardo DiCaprio and Antonio Banderas. And I was open to communicating with him. And one day he said, it was when I was very, very sad about my friend. He said, "You look like you need a gift." And basically he came out and he gave me a box. And I opened the box, and there were these beautiful vintage royal blue gloves. And I started to put them on and went, "Oh, they're so beautiful." And I started not to feel well. And I didn't know whether it was the Percocet or not. So I took them off, and I said, "Well, thank you so much, but I really can't accept them, but I appreciate it." So I didn't know what that was about. But I came back, and we became a little more friendly. And he said, "I have another gift I'd like to give you." And he gives me this beautiful soft butter jacket. And he says, "Oh, it makes your eyes pop." And of course, every girl wants to hear that, right?
Right.
So I said, "This feels really good, but I just don't think I should wear it." And I heard, "Because it's not yours to wear."
Sounds like what I'd say.
Well, exactly. I found out it was a dead person. And how I found that out was the guy was telling me that he was living in this house and that he was trying to buy it. And I heard that voice again right there say, "Go check out the house that he's living in." So I just pulled myself together, left the coffee shop, went up to the street, and there's only one house there that a cute barista boy could have even, bought.
Right.
mail was spilling out of the mailbox, and I looked at the names, and this isn't their correct name, but it was,
Right, of
I was
course.
just going to say Evie and Carl Greenberg. And I called that name, and a girl answered the phone, and I said, listen, I apologize for calling, but I'm interested in the house that the man is living in, that I guess you're selling to him and doing some repairs. And she said, no, the house is not for sale. She said, however, there was a young man who basically broke into the house, squatted, and took some of my parents' belongings. My parents are both dead.
Wow.
So it was Evie Greenberg who didn't want me to wear that jacket. And I went, oh my God, what is happening to me? Nikki's down here saying, oh my God.
Oh, read the book, Nikki. Order the book, because she's only telling you the tip of the iceberg here.
Yeah, so that's what did it. So that's what did it. And I'm like, oh my God. So to make a long story short, this was a matter of a year or two that this went on. I had to go to law enforcement for help because he became a stalker. And I, in turn, turned around and started working for law enforcement.
Right. And you work a lot. You don't go in like the private detective. You give them information that helps with the cases sometimes, right?
Yes, I've actually worked with private detectives. I do work with law enforcement, and I've done it pro bono. I do it as a service. And of course, with the book and everything, I was traveling. And at the pandemic, I have more time, but I have to work with detectives. So I can talk to the deceased loved one if they have found the perpetrator or they do have the body, and I can of course work with the family. But boy, working with law enforcement is really quite extraordinary. I would go into any town and go to their police department and say, hey, listen, if you've got a cold case, let me just look at it.
Well, some of the, if you read the book, some of the cases that you helped give information to help solve were amazing, especially the cold cases. Now, let's see that you have this thing with men. You meet these interesting men in your life that you either date or know or go out with, and I was the one that pedaled across country and was an alcoholic, and then there was that, and then there's the story that, how do I get that? You sent a letter. Okay. So, all right. Okay. Cosmopolitan. There was Cosmo. Do they still have the man of the month? Okay. But girls, if you remember,
I think mine did them in.
Right.
My situation.
Marla, you decided, how old were you when you did that? You were young.
I was 21.
21 years old, and you had gotten this issue of Cosmopolitan magazine, and you decided to write to the Cosmo Man of the Month, right?
Yeah.
Just say, hey, how are you? I don't know what exactly. I can't remember exactly what you wrote, but he called you. And then you ended up like something out of a James Bond movie in Cuba, from Jamaica to Cuba. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. You have this. They need to turn this into a movie, but explain to everybody.
We're working on that, but yeah. Okay.
But what I want to say is, you never know what's going to happen if you just pick up your pen and write a letter or ask. I always tell people, you never know until you ask. You did that.
All right. So Esther, should I start talking about your guys too? Because honestly, this is one of those situations that goes back to childhood where we basically have to understand we need boundaries. What Esther's talking about is I left college. I ended up in Milwaukee, and I ended up living and working for the Milwaukee mob.
How did I forget about this? You were like a mafia sort of princess adjacent. Go ahead. My God.
Anybody can get through an interview with you without laughing. At least it's doing something to my core muscles in here. I'm like,
there you go.
So that's okay. So that's how a lot of things sort of started. Of course, I left working for them in their restaurant to sing in the Milwaukee Opera Company, and then I was told after that whole Cuba thing that I had to move because I did survive Cuba.
Right.
And it is a long, involved story, but
I forgot about the mafia part. I mean,
but
not that I forgot, there's just so much.
but it's but I think the bottom line is, as young women who don't understand boundaries. I mean, when you have somebody like I had as my mom,
Mhm.
who just didn't respect my boundaries at all in any way, shape, or form, I didn't learn them. So you have to learn them. So I had a perpetrator from the time that I was a little girl perpetrating things on me. So I really didn't
Mhm.
understand. And of course, that American part in front of the American psychic word is literally about the trauma of my father being in the war, my mother being crazy. And that's sort of the milieu. That's how we were raised, Esther. I mean, we were raised in that time. So whether it's drinking, whether it's drugs, whether it's anything. And I think that our listeners understand that there's a codependent nature in all of us, and we will just take on these relationships. But I know, after going through everything that you've said between the alcoholic and the stalker and the mobs and mob bosses, and some of those Hollywood heartthrobs that are in the book, I
Right.
think it's really about the incredible lessons that spirit brings to us for us to learn. And I know that your listeners here are completely understanding this.
Of course. Well, like I said, trust me. I mean, the mob, that whole story. You go into such detail in it in your book. But I guess here's where we're going to go to now.
Okay.
All of this craziness that happened, the mob, Milwaukee, Cuba, Jamaica.
Sounds like a song.
Sounds like that Beach
Da,
Boys.
da, da,
Da-da-da.
da,
But anyway,
da, da.
you ended up in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
You ended up, as we played some of the clips of some of your work. You ended up in Los Angeles, but at the same time, you were, I guess, thought you were just going to become an actress and keep working and working, and then all of a sudden, I hope Sai Baba.
Yes.
Did I pronounce that
Baba.
correctly?
Yes, yes, Sai Baba. And
Sai
that was really interesting. So this is another one of those little aspects just to catch you up. Yes, I left the mob and started training in Chicago, and then
Is that Ingo Swann? Now, who was Ingo Swann?
well, okay, you're giving me a lot of names here. So hold on just a
I'm
second.
sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I was out of.
All right, hold on just a second. So,
Okay.
when I was working as an actress, and I was really fortunate to be at the Cleveland Playhouse, and I go
Mhm.
back to Chicago, and then I decide I really need to go to LA. I was just being pushed.
Right.
And what had happened when I was at Cleveland, just a little backtrack, there was a lot of psychic stuff happening. I mean, it's just sort of like you think you're going to a theater company to do great work, and then all of a sudden you're navigating all of this psychic stuff that's pretty crazy. So I got a handle of that, just decided this acting thing is for me. This is what I want. So I come out here, and through a series of events with the stalker that
Mhm.
happened, I never in my wildest imagination thought that there would be something that was more exciting and more fun than being on television and being
Right.
on stage. But it was really when I started talking to the dead and working with law enforcement that it made sense to me. I left the business in 2002.
Mhm.
And right before I left the business, I had been really asking for more guidance because there was so much crazy stuff happening.
Mhm.
And the thing that happened was I had been home to see my mother. And I looked at the pictures and I felt so bad for her. How you go through those pictures that was back when we could get them from the pharmacy, right? And I was looking at those pictures thinking, oh, please, God, don't let me look like my mother. She looks just so broken. She kind of looks like a witch. And could you please, help me with this talking to the dead business? I really need some help. Well, that was at 11:30 in the morning. At 11:30 at night, I had come back from a party and my dog was on the kitchen floor and I was rubbing him, and it was like he was like, "Oh, I love this so much." And then all of a sudden, I see blood everywhere. I'm like, "What's this? What's this?" And I ran into the bathroom because the dog wasn't hurt. Ran into the bathroom and the bottom of my nose was gone.
Right.
My dog had somehow sliced the end of my nose off. I found the piece stuck to his bed the next day, and I ended up going to the hospital, getting a skin graft. And I couldn't believe. Hey, listen, guys, be very, very careful what you wish for. So there I am, just back home, all sewed up. I know my acting career is almost over. I'm ready to give it up and everything. And then I hear, "Hello, my name is Baba. I want you to go to I want you to go to Macy's and buy yourself." I can't do an Indian accent.
Right.
"And buy yourself some colorful tops because you wear too much black." Well, Sai Baba, I didn't know who this guy was. I ended up going to my therapist saying, "This is what's happening. Here's this guy." And she said, "Well, that's an avatar in India." So this guy I thought he was a dead gay designer telling me to get my clothes together. I didn't know what was happening. So he gave me teachings, and here was another form of an organized religion on the other side of the world that I knew nothing about. So I had to educate myself, and I RL's going, "Holy crap." It was holy, and it was just amazing. But you know what it did, guys? It made me understand, because coming as a Lutheran and then born again, I didn't have the understanding of all the different religions, but it made me understand that we all see love through a different lens, and that's the key. We all see love. And that's what was so amazing about it.
Right. I've got so many notes from reading your book.
I'm all sweaty now.
Well, and plus you have so much. You're a very empathetic person. You have so much. You have a lot of emotion that goes through you when you feel. But it's like when before we started the show, we were chatting, and then you were saying hello to my dog, and then all of a sudden you said, "Being on my show, you started to get a tear, and you had a Kleenex." And I'm going, I haven't made anybody cry like that since I cut onions 2 years ago in the kitchen. What the hell?
Well, we have this amazing connection, and it had to be around your dog, and I could feel your dog this morning again. So
yes, you felt Champers this morning. Yeah. Okay. Now, Buddy the dog. There was in the book. There's a story about Buddy the dog and getting his balls cut off. And do you remember that, Buddy the dog? The voice. The dog. The dog. It was in your book. The dog was the dog was going to have an operation and
yes, okay.
I'm sorry, we're talking about dogs' balls. It's okay. But
okay.
Wait a minute, Buddy the dog. Maybe Buddy was. Maybe that wasn't Buddy the dog. There was another one.
I don't remember the dog having a name.
No. That was another thing. Forget it. But the dog said, "No, don't do it." It's like Champer saying,
"You want me to tell this story?" Okay.
Yes.
All right. I was in a bad mood. I was going through my divorce. So I go to the mail center, and I'm talking to the mail girl Sarah about my troubles, and this girl comes in with a dog, and she's chewing a gum, and the dog is a King Spaniel. What's that called?
Right.
A King's Charles Spaniel.
Right.
It catches my eye. And I look at him, and I'm watching, and I heard him say, "I'm so scared what she's doing to me." And I said, "Your dog is really frightened about what you're going to do to him." She says, "Yeah, I'm going to have his balls cut off."
That's right.
And the mail girl and I were like, "What the hell?" And then I'm like, and I'm just shaking my head. And we were just astounded. And I just said to the mail person goes, "Oh," I said, "it just doesn't pay to be psychic." And I walk out the door and I hear, "Are you really psychic or something?"
I said it's like out of a movie. Oh, what is it? Now, how do you know my friends Barbara and Janet DeBella? Barbara and Barbara worked at Warner Brothers. Both of them worked at Warner Brothers. Is that how you met them?
Yes, I met them through one of our dear friends, Chris, and who we're all still really close friends with. And I'm going to tell a little story about Barbara and are you chatting in there? Barbara and Janet. I think it was the father who was deceased and came through and talked about all of the boxes that were in the garage because of Home Shopping Network.
Right. Yes.
Are you typing? Are you guys typing that?
Oh, they might be. I'm not sure. I'm sure
They,
that
loved working with Barbara and Janet. But yes, we've had some really great work, done some really great work together, and they're just delightful.
yes, they are the home shopping network queens. If you go into it's like a mini home shopping network warehouse in their garage. Double car.
Don't you love that though?
I do.
The deceased parent is talking about that to me. I just love that. And it was just fun. It was just funny. So.
Have you ever, like with law enforcement in your book, I always keep referring in your book because there's so many stories and we could go on and on for hours and hours on some of these stories, but have you ever had anything, the stalker not included, that just made the hair go up on your back and you just couldn't deal with it and refused to not get involved?
You know what? It's so interesting. I'd been thinking about that case and thinking about that case. It was when I was working with the U.S. military. The U.S. military psychic spies disbanded in 1995, and those men and women went out and started teaching the public sector. And I was trained by Lynn Buchanan. And Lynn, I was doing map dowsing with him, and I was also working on a case on a serial killer. And the most interesting thing about this is I had let it go until just a few nights ago. You know how you're looking through YouTube and you find interesting things like Esther Goldberg? Well, I happened to find a case of a woman, and I thought, gee, I wonder if that's familiar, because I work a lot of cases and then I go away. And I'm watching it, and I'm seeing the pictures of the girls that I had worked on, the murder victims. He was on a serial killer spree, and it was really a great show for me to watch because it was all about one of the girls that had survived this guy. And I didn't even know his name until I actually watched it a few weeks ago. So I watched the whole thing, and it was so interesting because there is probably another law enforcement guy that I should get in touch with, because the PI guy that I was working with through the FBI told me, because when you're tracking a serial killer like that, you don't want anything to happen. You just want to keep moving forward. But I could see that on the 4th of July, there was going to be another attack. I didn't see it as an actual murder at the time, but his MO was picking up dark-haired girls with hair to here. And this is what did it for me. This was back in 1998, and I had to take a break away from this stuff. But I saw the name Mandy, and I thought that this was who he was getting, but it was actually an area and a restaurant where he apparently had been going. And he apparently had picked up a young boy along the side of the road that had hair like that. And he eviscerated him.
Wow.
So when I found out that information, this was 98. So I hadn't had a lot underneath my belt, but I stopped for a while. Yeah.
Because sometimes it gets into your soul, your aura.
Yes.
Right?
Well, it's one thing to track. It's to track a perpetrator. But it's always best, in my experience, that they find the perpetrator and I can just continue to talk with the family or the deceased loved one. But this was tricky. This was the trickiest thing I'd come about. Yeah.
Did they find him? Did they ever catch him?
Oh yeah, they did. They got him. Yeah. Well, he killed himself. They got him.
Right.
They sent a dog in. He got in the car. The dog went after him, and then he got in the car and he shot himself.
Okay.
Yay!
I might be a little emotional here. No, because you just triggered something that in the book that I just was like, wow.
Okay.
Suicide. We're told that you commit suicide, you're going to hell. You commit suicide, blah, 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 blah. In your book, I'm a person who tried to kill myself a couple of times in the past. I've not going there ever again.
Good.
And part of that fear was I'm going to hell. But then again, all my friends are going to be there. But no, the thing is, you you not redefine, you explain that you're not going to go to hell. That it's all about the forgiveness. It's all about thems. I'm trying to find the correct words, Marla. You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to go burn in hell because you killed yourself.
Well, first off, this is my belief system about, and this is after doing this for as many years as I've done it now, and talked to a lot of people and worked with suicide victims. Things happen to us here in the physical body that we become addicts. We have what we do to our bodies out of our own trauma is unfortunate, because we really have to love ourselves. We have to love ourselves so much and take care of ourselves so well, so that we don't have as many problems. Because once you go down the road of whether it's eating too much sugar or drinking or drugs or whatever, it's a hard place to get out of. You can do that, but it's still, it renders something inside of the body, the brain, the heart, that you start to deteriorate in some way. And it's my experience that when people have, sometimes they're medicated too much, sometimes it is medication, whatever, but the psyche of someone can go to a place that makes them want to take an action. And I'll give you an example of what just happened with someone, a client. I was talking with her mother, and I wrote down, before I even got on the phone with this mother, not knowing it was her daughter that had died or anything. When you can't change your situation, you have to change yourself. And I'm like, yeah, of course, I agree with that. But what she did was she decided to change herself by not staying here. She was angry. She couldn't fix the boyfriend. She couldn't handle the dynamic. She was a young girl, and she made a choice that had dire consequences. And she was grievous about having done this. So what happens is, oftentimes, and I've talked to people as soon as within the first couple of days or a week, once they have done that, they realize that they've made a mistake, and they do have to see the sorrow and the angst that the death has caused. But it's not as though you're ever flung into a hell. This amazing benevolence, this God source, this is great PR for God, God's grace, and this larger consciousness system is so benevolent, so loving, so forgiving, that when you are out of the body, you've left some of the problems that were stuck inside that body. So the reasons that you made that choice were in the body, in the brain, in the heart. Your consciousness is out, and you're like, oh my God, what did I do? It's like you are out of and free of the body, but you still recognize, oh, I was there to work through this. I made a choice to go back and do this, and I cut myself short. And so it literally is, you're cutting yourself short from an experience,
Right.
but it's much more, it's still a process. You still have to go through some form of a process. And I always say to people, look, I'm always not a fan about the whole idea about killing oneself, because I mean, come on, Esther, you might not be so cute when you come back.
No, I know. That's why, my crazy life has been, I lost my family when I was 5.5, 6 years old. I still, every single day, I remember my mother. So I'd never forget her. I remember, it was so funny. This finger, we're talking about, there was scars. You were talking about scars. Right there is a finger. And I had fallen, you were talking about in the book, this Black woman who was, that you dealt with. And you had to go to the hospital or something. I forget what it was. It was there was something that happened with this Black woman who was like a housekeeper. Yes. And when I, at the age of 6, there was a Black woman that took care of me, and I fell into glass. But it's the last I remember my mother. And it was so funny when I was reading your book, because I fell into the glass and my finger almost came off. And that's the last thing I remember, except for with the day that she was dying, was her taking me to the hospital and running me up and down the hallway going, Michael, Michael, motorcycle, Michael, Michael, motorcycle. And I was freaking out. And I don't know. it was just
Mhm.
it's hard to I've never met anybody that only one person has said, Michael motorcycle to me, and that was a psychic medium 100 years ago. But it's one of those things. You and I are we're gonna have a session one day.
Yes, we're gonna work. Well, there's a question down here. K Lee Lef
What if
L-E-F.
the person murders themselves?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So I had an experience around this just a few years ago. Actually, out here in Los Angeles, there was a little actress by the name of Adia Shabati. And here's what happened. I'd been sick with the flu or something. I was pulling into my driveway, into my building, and I saw people putting up these pictures. And I'm thinking, oh my God, if she hands me this photograph, I'm going to go right there. I'm going to know what happened. I'm going to feel the whole thing. She handed it to me and I was like, whoa. So the girl that was in the picture was the girlfriend of a guy named Chris. I believe it was Spots, S-P-O-T-S. So what I got in that moment was that she had been killed, and they didn't even know that at the time, but I wasn't going to tell those people because they needed law enforcement around them and they needed to look for the body. I don't step in. It's not about an ego going, I know things. No, the fact was the girl's spirit was touching me and letting me know what was happening. And actually just a few days out, or maybe it was a week or so after that, I'm driving over the hill and I hear her, they're going to find my body. So I knew that there was nothing that I could do. However, when we did find out that he had actually killed himself, Kay. This is very much like which is with the Gabby Polito, I think that's her name.
Right, that just happened.
Yeah, that just happened. So what happened was I decided to work with the mother who came into town, and there were a group of Adia's friends that I worked with, and I actually know why it went down the way that it did, but I have not discussed this with law enforcement, and I have not discussed it with the investigators. I sent a note to an investigator a couple of weeks ago because I was remembering this, but I do have information about this as to why this happened. So, so the question is, the girl, the daughter, I'm sitting with the mother, Kay. So you're okay. Pay attention, Kay. I got some info for you. So I'm with the family, and the girl said, I love Chris so much. Please pray for Chris. Yes, he did this, but I love him. Please hold him in the highest light because he is, of course, in a very difficult position right now. And I thought that was really remarkable.
Wow. Wow. The heavy stuff there. Let's see here now. I think you have blown away a few people here today, Miss Marla Frees. And I mean,
Esther Goldberg.
No, it's you have to come back so we can talk some more.
Well, I love it. And listen, I've watched a couple of your shows, and I made some notes here about Corby, and she's quite wonderful, and I loved listening to her. And she and I have a lot of things in common, and her opinions of Ouija boards and all that. I'm right there with her. And Lewis, I think Lewis might be the son I never had. So Lewis and I work similarly. And Sloan, of course, Sloan. Look, here we are, the short-haired blonde girls in Los Angeles.
Let me tell you something. I got this gut. I'm kind of intuitive sometimes.
Psychic now.
And
kosher and psychic?
No, I just sometimes I just sense things, and it's like there a lot of people on here are Sloan's friends as well. But I had this thing, this feeling this morning. I wrote it down. Before the show started, I said, I called her, I texted her, I said, Sloan, you have to connect with Marla. She's going to help you with Keithy, because her son, as you know, was a hit and run and killed last year. And it as a mother, I can't imagine. I told her, I said, no one can understand the way that you are feeling or what is going on in your heart, but it has devastated her so much. And reading your book, I'll get emotional. Reading your book, I went, if there's somebody that can help this woman, it's going to be you. And I just know that Sloan you all have to go to City Walk and talk. I don't know if you can help give her some closure, but I would be reading your book last night. I couldn't get it out of my heart and gut this morning. And I just think so. And I also feel like as the Jewish woman, I'm the matchmaker for transformational psychic mediums, because you all have a hard time seeing things about that was another question. A lot of psychic mediums can't feel things for themselves, but you can sometimes get answers for yourself from
it's like, remember Chinatown, your mother, your sister. It's like, oh my God, I'm getting the information. Ron, thank you. Excuse me, Ron. I just want to say, yes, I agree with you. Thank you. Thank you. Good.
What you were saying.
And they're talking about you. Yeah, Esther, you are the best. Do spirits ever speak? What is that? What about
God? Do spirits ever speak of heaven or God?
Oh, yes, often. Yes. This Chris, friend of Barbara and Janet's and mine, when his wife died, she came in and was talking about, let me tell you what heaven is. Do you remember when we were at the lake and it was so great? And of course he was describing it, and he was talking about people that are of like-mindedness and our heart opened, this spirit consciousness. She said, this spirit consciousness is like this. And she said, this is my slice of heaven. When you and I were at the lake and we were with amazing people and we're all heart centered. And it was an amazing thing. And some people talk about the Christ light. Some people talk about, it's very interesting because, it's almost as though everybody can be together at one point in time, but whether it's a Jewish person or a Muslim or a Christian, the essence is being in the God consciousness. It's, it really boils down to that. I hope that that's helpful. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We've covered a lot. Everybody's wondering about your book. So I just said it's American Psychic. It's on Amazon. Marla Frees. If you want to see what the book looks like, here's the cover right here. Look at it. Fabulous. And it is, just unbelievable. Are you promising me you're going to come back again, young lady?
Yes, I would love it. And thank you all so much. And I love this chat room that you have. There's some very interesting questions, statements here. And
if you feel like you want to answer them right now, I mean, we don't have a time limit, but
I was kind of basically agreeing with a lot of what people are saying here. And thank you all. For those of you who are interested in the book, it does come on Audible, but you'd have to listen to me for 9.5 hours. So, and it is my voice, but thank you. And I think that you're absolutely right, Esther. There's a number of things that are happening through this wonderful station that you have here. And I think that you're touching a lot of people in many different ways. And I'm really, really grateful for this. So thank you so much.
I am grateful that you have come on and had a wonderful time as we get funky.
Wow.
Everybody, there she is, the gorgeous, the beautiful Marla Frees. Her book you can get on Amazon, American Psychic. And also, once this goes back into replay, there's all the information to get a hold of Marla. You can book readings, you can book one-on-ones, and you can also keep in touch with where she's going to be, if she's going to be speaking in certain places and other shows that she's going to be on. And hang out, Marla. When we get out of here, I'll talk to you for just a second. I'll show you how to do all this stuff. This is Esther Goldberg, Marla Frees. Thank you so much. Tune in, share this show with everybody that you can. It's a good one. Here we go.